He wasn't in steering, so I don't know.
Yeah, Louis always on vacation.
That's what I was gonna say.
Yeah, nice.
I mean, with Mai Tais in Hawaii, why not? Oh shit! The recording has started. Damn.
Should we get started?
Please.
We have at least 4 members. Okay, so do we have anything we need to do around releases?
No, there are presentations though. I would like to complete
Okay, so let's move quickly. Okay. So John, you want to go first?
Yeah, so we had a lot of conversation about what exactly is supported on upgrades, and I think that there's a lot of confusion between developers and users where everyone kind of has their own idea of what's exactly supported. And it would be great if we have a very clear and precise definition of what we support and what the implications are if you don't use revisions. Whether that means there could be downtime, whether it means you're completely on your own and we don't even care about supporting it, or what that means, because it's interacting both. Like when we're designing things, like everyone has a different opinion on what's supported, and our users also don't have a clear message, I think.
Yeah, so what we have been giving guidance to our users, see if this makes sense, is in place upgrade, you will have small downtime. So if you are okay with that small downtime, it's perfectly okay to use in place upgrade. If you really want to test things thoroughly and avoid downtime and surprises, revision is the way to go.
In other words, we do not support upgrades, in-place upgrades, with guarantees that there will be no downtime. Users should expect there is a downtime, and it's equivalent with uninstalling Istio, installing it again. I mean, shutting down traffic, uninstall, install again. You should not rely on anything else.
So why is that the case? What is it that causes downtime in place?
Technically, we do not have the capability to maintain synchronicity between XDS and voice sidecars and the Istio itself. Not only because we don't have enough testing and enough stability in the APIs and in the external dependency, but because, again, we have no way to control the rollout of the data plane. So when you do in-place upgrade, you suddenly have very hard to predict combination of sidecars and Istio. And maybe in 10 years, we'll have enough testing to guarantee that XDS is super stable and nothing changes. But we never had this before.
I think we want to clarify what downtime means here, right? So downtime here is the data plane should mostly function with the old configuration, because that's what we do with in-place upgrades, at least in 1.6, and it works.
Accidentally, it may work. It never works in all cases.
We do test it, but I can understand there might be some cases. Yeah.
I mean, we are getting better and better, and we are minimizing the damage. I mean, the downtime and the risk are getting smaller and smaller, but because there is no infrastructure in place. I mean, there is no way to know what the client is, what the server is, and what the differences are, and we don't have enough testing across those deltas, nor any path where we'll have enough because there are too many changes in Envoy.
Even if the data plane version is in the supported window, you think there will be downtime?
I mean, again, the system is not designed for that. Revision are designed and were designed to get around these problems. That's a proper design. That's why we introduce revisions. If there is a design that will allow us to do in-place upgrade and deal with the delta, of course we'll do it. But the best we have is what John proposed with automating the revision shift to look like an in-place upgrade, but actually to be a and besides, that's what we recommend to our own users. If they deploy an application, they should use traffic shifting, not in-place rollout. So we should do what we preach.
I think what we're saying is the current state is that we cannot support this with zero downtime. and that it would be significant work for the project to support in place with zero downtime and guarantee it.
I mean, so far it's not clear if it is possible or not. I mean, we don't have any designs that claims to address this. If someone
So
claims with an idea,
it is software, so it is possible. But I think it's, so from my perspective at least, I think it's okay for us to say, and be very explicit that we do not support in-place upgrades with zero downtime.
I would agree with that
I
statement.
agree also.
I like that too.
Yeah,
Okay.
certainly today. I mean, as a goal, I think we would love to have in-place update without time, but we're just not there yet.
And additionally, Sven, while we are maturing the revision-based upgrades and actually making it better, I think then it becomes less of a problem for customers. Like the issues that we have been seeing recently, hopefully in 1.9, if we resolve most of them, then probably most of the customers will migrate towards revision, and this conversation will gradually die down.
Yeah, and we are doing work to make revision-based upgrades easier as well,
Exactly.
right?
Exactly.
Things like that. So, okay.
Can I ask a question? What would it take to start to guarantee compatibility between server and sidecars at the Envoy level?
What do you mean by compatibility between server and sidecar?
Well, if I understood correctly, the issue is that the sidecars, there may be differences in configuration or the API between Istio D and the sidecars. And so the information that they're getting made from the new installation on an old sidecar may not be compatible.
So,
Is that the problem?
Sven claims that all software problems can be solved, but there are NP problems that cannot be solved. This is an NP problem where there are so many combinations, so many variations, so many permutations that I don't think we have a way to guarantee anything, especially since they're completely different teams. It's close enough. It's close enough. I mean, it's chaos, basically. I mean,
Hold on. So that is absolutely not true. Guaranteeing backwards compatibility from one version to another is absolutely possible. It is just a matter of us investing in it, right? Us being the Istio project and the Envoy project, right? Both projects would need to invest in saying, yes, you can have control plane scheme, and you can upgrade the control plane and then upgrade the data plane in place, and everything works.
It may be intractable. It's not impossible.
It's not impossible.
Okay.
It is just work. We should, and I think we're all saying we're okay not doing that work now. So we don't need to argue about it. Let's just document that we do not support this, and in the future we can revisit whether we want to actually do that investment.
And we are also doing work in parallel to improve upgrade, downgrade test coverage, and that may make this a little bit more tractable.
Yeah.
So I guess that solves the user-facing argument. Do we want to have the same idea internally? Like, should we invest in making in-place upgrade work, even if we tell users that it will cause downtime, or is that something that we don't even bother investing effort in, especially around adding testing for upgrades?
Yeah, so for us, we are going to continue to use the in-place upgrade. So we will continue to invest in adding test cases for in-place upgrade, just because, that's something, it's a lot easy for our user, and while the revision upgrade is getting...
I'm wondering if the same test cases can be used for both upgrade approaches.
There is commonality there, and that's what I was going to suggest. And just like Lynn, Aspen Mesh will contribute towards solidifying and making in-place upgrade test cases better, especially around Helm.
So we can use the same test cases, and then the difference is that if we find any sort of availability issues with revision-based upgrades, we're going to fix those. If we find them with in-place, we may or may not fix them.
As long as the user is informed that downtime may be possible and they don't blame Istio for production outages if they do in-place upgrade, I don't think it's a problem. It's very reasonable. But we should invest in what John proposed, which is to do the to make revision base look like in-place upgrade for users. That's
fair, Costin. I don't think we works here collectively. Our customers don't want two problems instead of one. They have told us we won't have two versions of Istio control plane running.
If they're okay with downtime in production, that's their choice. I mean, of course.
We work with them, right? That's what we're trying to say. That's the state we are in. So
Yes, same with us. We have user rather tolerate a small downtime than worry about the complexity of revision. And also people doesn't want to be early adopters of revision, which we understand.
And that's the same on the Red Hat side as well. They'd rather have in-place upgrades.
Exactly. And that's why we were working on Helm, because we have been eating the cost on Aspen Mesh side for 2 releases.
Yeah.
And
But I think we're also getting the guidance that we're not going to try to make everything work with in-place upgrades. It'll be best effort versus revision based, where we'll really make sure that that's solid.
I think we'll add caveats and we'll inform the users, right?
So Neeraj and Lynn and Kevin and other people that are not Google, do you think we can get revision-based upgrades to the point where customers will
Great question.
be comfortable adopting that, as like if we make it almost as easy as in-place upgrades?
I don't know. I see
Possible.
strong pushback. Like we have burned them so much right now, they're scared.
Yeah, I mean, if you go back to the survey that we did a couple of months ago, this was probably the biggest issue that was being raised by the customers. They did not trust the upgrade process. So it's going to be hard to get them to buy into that, I think.
I mean, given that upgrade process has been in-place upgrade from the beginning and users do not trust the upgrade process, I think we are drawing different conclusion from the survey.
Well, I think you also need to look at usability around it as well. I mean, it may be more stable, but it's certainly a lot more complicated. And as Lynn said, now users are going to have to worry about two sets of problems instead of one set.
What I meant is, so far we had in-place upgrade, and we have feedback that the users don't trust it and have problems with it. That's what I'm saying.
Let's be fair here. We paid lip service to having in-place upgrade. We didn't really do it in earnest.
Yeah, and also Costin, an open source user failing is not the same as a vendor's users, customers failing, right? If most of our customers were not able to upgrade Aspen Mesh, they won't pay us. So we are making them work.
I completely agree with that. I mean, it's if you have a way to make it work and they don't care about production outages, and anyway.
For now, why don't we just, sorry, Lynn.
Yep.
I was just going to close this back to Savan's point. I mean, if revision-based upgrade is really as simple as in-place upgrade, we definitely would love to look into that. But today it's not. And also there's also maturity time with projects like Istio, right? People knows the new feature out there. It may take 3, 6, or a year to be mature. That's the other angle we're looking at.
Yeah.
Okay. I think we're basically saying we're gonna keep supporting in place with downtime. We are going to keep investing in the revision-based upgrades, try to get it stable and trustworthy and as easy to use as possible, and then we can revisit. If we get to that point, do we actually need to ever make in-place upgrades zero downtime?
Yeah. And the main tactical concern I want to inject is just we're going to share test cases.
Totally.
Yeah, okay, sounds good.
Yes, I don't actually think that's
not feasible.
Upgrading is it's completely different because there's no upgrade when you do revisions. It's not even an upgrade.
Well, the test should not care how you upgrade. I mean, the test should be, this is a test, I run an application and verify 503s, and then I run some command that is doing the upgrade. It can be either the command that is doing revision based or in place.
Okay. No, I think I agree with Sven's summary and Josh's desire maybe at this point instead of a guidance.
Yeah, right.
Okay.
Yeah, so we do have a working group where we'll discuss, whether this idea that we can share test cases is really feasible. I hope it is.
Yeah. John, is it enough guidance for you and your question?
Yeah, I think that's fine.
One related question: are we still have consensus that Istio D upgrades and installs are separate from the gateways install and upgrades? Because environments believe so, but we still have operators that is doing both at the same time. And
I would like to discuss that maybe after these points, unless you think it is germane to this discussion.
It's kind of the same thing.
I strongly believe that's the right way. In fact, I'm a big advocate for that work. I actually highlighted in my 1.8 Istio blog. That's like the biggest thing we've done in 1.8 for upgrade. And you guys all know inside of IBM, we've been advocating that approach before you guys standardize it, because we've been advocating people to run their customer gateway outside of the default gateway so that they have the full control of that gateway lifecycle. So I think that's definitely the right approach for a lot
Same
of
here. We have been doing the same.
Okay. Same here, but just want to make sure.
Yeah, thanks for checking with us. Okay, so are we ready?
Yeah,
Moving on. Okay, I guess I'll be next. This should be quick. So we've been having, Eric has been doing an amazing job as PSC members represent from IBM, and I think we intended that to be a rotation role, so one person doesn't have to stuck there forever. So with the next release, Eric has graciously agreed to help us to make upgrades work better. So we have specific scenarios we're going to focus on in place, and also revision upgrade to use revision to transition from in place to external Istio. So with that, we're going to have Eric free up from the PSC members. Greg Hansen has just been release manager for 1.8. I think he's definitely qualified for, switch Eric out, and he'll be the representative from IBM as a PSC member. So I'm asking for the TOC approval for that.
I don't remember. Do we actually need TOC approval? Does TOC approve PSC membership? I forget our process.
Yes, per the charter, we need to have a TOC approval.
Yeah, Josh has been doing that in the past.
I wanted to make sure we weren't adding process if we didn't already have.
I know.
Yeah. Do we have consensus? I'm assuming yes from product security working group.
Yeah, sure.
If
Okay.
I agree.
Yeah, PSC is fine with it. Yeah.
Okay, I'll record that approved. Thanks, guys.
Yeah. Thanks, Eric, for the work, and welcome, Greg.
Okay, so should we start the 1.9 presentations?
Yes.
I think I'm worried the extension provider conversation would take up all the time left. So.
Oh, it will take up all of our times. Not just this one.
So UXO, I need to zoom this. Who is presenting the user experience roadmap 1.9 plan?
Mitch.
Yep, I can do that.
Mitch,
can you guys hear me all right?
Yep, I can hear you.
Oh, shoot, it's not on that spreadsheet, is it? Sorry, I'm having some technical difficulties on my side. I'm not able to share it from my end.
Is it, so it's not in the spreadsheet, the release planning 1.9 spreadsheet?
I don't think it is. If somebody wants to go before me, I will get it moved into that spreadsheet and double back with you. My apologies.
Okay, let's do telemetry and extensions instead.
Yes, and if you can scroll down a little bit there.
Yeah, on me. 1.9 roadmap.
Yes, that's us. So the first item there, we have begun work on request classification. There's an itemized list linked in that issue for the rest of the work. And so this is about promoting that feature to beta, moving the feature along. So that's work that Mandar is gonna lead, and he's driving. The next item is a partial bit of the telemetry API proposal. We tried to scope down for 1.9 to focus on one small set of features. The wisdom of that yet to be determined, but that's the work that's going on. This is something that users have been asking for a long time, having a proper telemetry API, and so we want to introduce it to give workload level overrides for things like tracing, access logging, and metrics customization. So that is a P0, and I'll be driving that work. We've added work in 1.8 to support traffic that's not in the mesh, to have metadata about that, that's restoring features we used to have with Mixer. And Peter is going to continue that work and complete that work in the 1.9 timeframe for traffic leaving the mesh. So that's the other P0. Peter's also going to work on finishing documentation. We had promised this, I think, last release cycle, but it never happened. We worked on some sort of workarounds, but we didn't fully document all the workarounds for the fact that Prometheus metrics no longer expire with V2 telemetry. So we want to get that documentation up on the website. And if you could scroll down.
Okay, documenting workarounds. Is there a longer term, quote unquote, real fix to that?
There is a much longer term. It's a big fix effort. We don't have anyone working on that currently. A day or two ago, someone from the community reached out and said they might be interested in working on that. I have not heard more since then, and because of that, we don't have any work ongoing for that long-term set of work. That is something we could pursue, but that's not on our agenda for 1.9.
I think that's fine for 1.9, but we should, given that this is still a kind of, we made a backwards incompatible change that can break people, and we're trying to get better about not doing that. We should follow up on finishing this.
Yeah, I guess I'm interested in how the TOC wants us to track items like that, that are sort of long run, cross multiple release type efforts for patches. I don't know how to represent that in these roadmaps.
So what I would do is I would put in that, we will be working on it during this release, but not finishing it this release as part of the roadmap.
Okay.
All right, and sort of say what parts you plan on getting done, right? Like whether it's an approved design, whether it's identifying who's going to work on it, whatever it is.
Okay. I think for this cycle, we don't have anyone that's going to work on it, but maybe if this community thing pans out. Okay. Similarly, for the WASM extensions, we've sort of been working on features, but there's no documented plan for what it takes to promote them up to beta. And so this cycle, the plan is to develop the plan for what it looks like to transition those features into beta. So that is also a P0. Kwat is going to take charge of that.
Where is WebAssembly support in general in terms of our feature stages? Is that, I think, marked beta?
At best, I think it's alpha. I don't think anyone that I know of feels comfortable marking beta. Mandar, do you?
No. Yeah. So this it is definitely alpha right now, and part of this work is to exactly do that, to lay out what all is needed, and then do some of that work to get it in a much better spot in 1.9.
Okay, wait, just because I'm thinking if it would seem weird for a WebAssembly extension to be marked beta when WebAssembly itself is not marked beta. So
that's probably poor wording on my part there. This is the extension, the mechanisms behind that more than is the extension themselves. Does that make sense?
Oh, okay. So this is actually that.
Yes.
Correct.
Okay, I was confused by the wording.
Yeah, that's bad wording on my part.
I thought this was about moving individual WASM extensions from alpha to beta and having a process.
So sorry, what are we? So we're going to promote WASM support from alpha to beta?
We're developing the plan for that promotion, right, Josh.
Okay, fine.
Yeah.
So
plan.
Exactly.
Right. Yeah. So question here. So does that also including Istio itself using WASM?
No, it does not. So the focus is on making sure that our users and customers are able to extend it and use extensions for those things. Not so much we consuming it ourselves. So those are orthogonal, and this work does not necessarily say that we are switching ourselves to using WASM for telemetry filters, let's say.
Okay, because I always feel like if we don't feel confident of ourselves, it's harder to ask other people to use it also.
That's a fair that's a fair point, and we would probably discuss it in the in the specific details, but it puts sort of additional burden that's not needed, and many customer requirements, especially around policy, are such that it's all done kind of in the process. So we don't want to unnecessarily gate customer adoption on our own adoption. And there are other people in the community who would adopt it for other things, and that's kind of ongoing right now.
Yeah, one of the issues, Lynn, is that it's very valuable for users to be able to extend Istio without having to rebuild Istio proxy. We don't have that need for us using WebAssembly. It just adds overhead to things that are currently running as native.
I see. That's good to know. Yeah, I didn't realize the overhead. I thought it would actually help us without running our own fork.
Well, it did relative to Mixer v1, but you know, versus just a pure native implementation of Mixer v2, it doesn't help.
Interesting. Thanks.
Okay, carry on, Doug.
So the next P0 there is we haven't really done a good job providing documentation on, now that Mixer's gone, here is exactly how you should use the new functionality that's available. And so we want to really take charge of that and fix that scenario. So this is a P0 to better document how to transition and what the existing extension models now provide you. In particular, there's work going on about rate limiting. We want to cover allow lists, et cetera. So Peter and Nooper have been starting work on that. The next one, there was some concerns about Envoy filter and our usage of Envoy filter and how things change, over time with each release. And so we wanted to work with the UX team on developing an analyzer for Envoy filter. Some of that work has already been done. So this has been scoped down to a P1, where we're just going to cover whatever is left, where we think we can be useful on upgrades. And the final P0, I think, for our working group for 1.9 is to continue to better support multi-cluster scenarios. This includes dashboard updates, but also stabilizing support for the labels in metrics, making sure they also show up in logs and trace spans, and doing a better job with the integration tests. Nooper has been taking a spat at getting all those transitioned, but we want to make sure that all of our existing integration tests support multi-cluster and do a better job with documentation.
Yeah, this came up as a question in the talk Lynn and I gave for Service Mesh Con. Someone was asking about this, so it's good to see us tackling it because we gave a not great answer.
Yeah, by the way, Doug, I don't see any documentation for this because the one time you asked us, did you guys demonstrate telemetry with multi-cluster? I don't find any docs on how to do that. I assume that's this work.
Yes, we want to make, we haven't done a good job there, and so I think we want to make that more obvious.
That's great, thanks.
I'd love to hear more at a later time about the questions you got in that talk too.
Yeah, I mean, it was really just people want to know what to do, right? They're like,
yep. What's the story?
How the dashboards work, and we're like, we don't know.
Yeah, they don't right now, but okay. Okay, good to know. The P1 that's sort of related to that earlier WASM conversation is there has been work coming from a couple different places about how to distribute WASM extensions and what the API for that should be. And so we want to work this release on designing that API and mechanisms and how that'll all work so that we could start implementation in 1.10, hopefully. So that's what that work is on. We took a P1 to make sure that the BTS work that we've done.
Quick question, Doug. The API for extension distribution, do you consider that to be part of beta graduation, or is that, or Like basically, why are we keeping that separate, and why is that not part of beta?
It is part of beta graduation, but since we have already scoped it out as like separate piece of work, and it's well defined.
Okay.
We have added it to the list here.
It's basically okay. So there will be other things in beta graduation. This is one of the pieces.
Yes, correct.
Okay, great. Thanks.
Yeah, it's again, the beta graduation is just the plan, and this is an actual tangible part of that plan.
Yeah.
So the P1, the other P1 there is just making sure that we stay in the loop and make sure that telemetry and extensions work well with the BTS work that's ongoing. And so this is sort of hopefully not a lot of work, but just mainly staying in sync with the rest of the project. And then the P2 there is our dashboards really haven't been updated significantly in a while. And Carolyn started some of that work in 1.8, and this is a continuation of that to continue to support the changes in telemetry, support scenarios like multi-cluster, but also we added gRPC streaming metrics. There's been requests to have gateway-focused dashboards, as well as to have dashboards built on canonical services instead of just Kubernetes services. So there is work there, and that's I think that's it of the 1.9 proposed items.
Cool.
So if that looks good, I'll transfer that over to the spreadsheet and commit us to that.
Anyone have any further comments? Looks like no.
Yeah, it looks good. I really look forward to the mixer replacement while some extension documentation.
There you go. See, I was knowing that somebody is going to like this. That's good. A really good job, Doug and Mandar and the telemetry working group lead. I'm all in favor of this. Let's make it work.
Mitch, are you back?
Can you guys hear me?
Yep.
Okay, so I'm going to be trying to run this from my personal computer because my work laptop is apparently refusing to turn on. Can you see the UX roadmap?
Yes, we can.
All right, great. So as you all know, the 1.9 release, we are focusing on stability. And so for that reason, we did not just carry over the items from 1.8 that were left over. The P2s didn't just normally we'll promote P2s to P1, et cetera, and kind of continue along in the direction we're going. However, we're sort of pivoting this release. In the last release, we were really happy to see all of the user feedback making its way into TOC. And the theme for this release is executing on that feedback around upgrades. So Louis asked that we go through our backlog of experimental features and either promote or disable them. So we're going to be doing that in the 1.9 timeframe.
Sorry, Mitch, just experimental or also alpha?
So the CLI does not have a concept of alpha commands. But Istio control does have experimental commands, and so that's what we'll be going through.
Okay, so it's just a start.
Yep.
Mitch, can you zoom the document in a little bit?
Yes, thank you. I was squinting.
Sure.
Just go. There should be a percentage thing if you get rid of go out of the menu, get rid of, click on got it for citations. There you go. 100%
There we go.
change.
I see it. How's that look?
That's better. Thank you.
Yes. Great. So we're also adding an upgrade checklist that's going to bring together a few features we've been working on in parallel, like pre-check and verify install, to give users a comprehensive understanding of when they are ready to upgrade a cluster from one version to the next, anything that they need to do, such as cutting over CRDs from a version that's been deprecated, etc. The third thing that we're focusing on is, oh, go ahead, Niraj.
Sorry. Yeah, is this going to be retroactive, or how far back you're going to go, or just going ahead from like 1.8 to 1.9?
Yeah, this is 1.9 forward.
Okay.
I don't think we've heard clearly which versions we're going to support upgrading to 1.9 from. I think that's an open question still, but whatever versions can upgrade to 1.9, this tool will work for.
Okay.
Does that answer your question?
Yes, it does. Thanks.
I wonder, I think that's fine. We might consider like post 1.9 even before 1.10 if we get feedback from users that they need, like that they have even older stuff and need help. We should potentially consider backporting some of this work. But
well, so the idea is if you're upgrading from a version, let's say we're supporting 1.6 to 1.9 upgrades. I don't know that we're going to do that, but let's just say for the sake of argument, you would download the 1.9 Istio control tool and run that against your 1.6 cluster, and it would give you any steps you need.
I get that, Mitch. What I'm talking about is like, I don't know if someone's on. I guess if we're saying, if we said we've supported upgrading to 1.9 from all existing ones, that's fine.
Exactly.
If we don't do that and people are on 1.6 and need to get to 1.9 and they have to go through 1.8 to get there, or they have to go like 1.6, 1.7, and then they can jump to 1.9 because we support 2 jumps, right? Then we consider whether the tool can help them with that too.
Yeah, depending on the complexity. I mean, that's just what I was trying to say, retroactive, going back to even 1.8 or 1.7, depending on how complex it is to backport, I would support that, since customers won't just go to 1.9 immediately, but this tool can be really useful.
Yeah.
Okay, I will take a follow-up item to consider that. These individual tools, there are some upgrade analyzers that are out there. There are pre-checks, there's verify install. These are all already available 1.7 and forward, but they are all separate tools, and it's a little confusing how to use them all together. So there could be some improvements there.
Are we going to consolidate them all to analyzers? So the only thing user needs to run is just that checks all the installation Istio operator along with other Istio resources and the platform?
The plan is not to consolidate them architecturally, but to consolidate them conceptually for our users. So there will be one command that they run to get all of the output that they need.
Yeah, that's perfect.
Cool. Yeah, that's perfect.
By the way, Mitch and the UX working group, one piece of really good feedback that I'm getting from my demo, and that's the only piece of feedback I've got for my 1.8 demo, is everyone loves the bug report tool. So great job on it. And being able to run that tool on an old cluster and it works, it's really nice.
Yeah, we had a great collaboration with the environments working group on that in 1.8, and huge thanks to Martin Ostrowski for that work. Any other questions about this upgrade checklist? All right, our next big theme, and these are, I've got the P zeros or P levels defined down here in the same order. I probably should have moved them up to the top, but we are working on a tool that will allow you to understand the feature status of the various features you're using in Istio.
That's cool.
This is in collaboration with Nathan Mittler and Jason Wang. I do think that there will be a little bit of area that is not covered API-wise in the 1.9 timeframe. I don't think that we can get quite all the way there, but in terms of what labels and annotations and environment variables you're using, you'll understand the maturity of the features you're using.
I think a very small step on top of that would basically be by default break if anyone tries to use anything less than beta, and then you could override that with a command line flag. So it forces people to pay attention.
Oh, that's interesting. I hadn't considered that. Sort of a proactive. So this would be evaluating an existing cluster, but we could retool it to work on a CI/CD basis effectively.
We should be careful since our current state is everything is alpha, so nobody will be able to install it.
Yeah, fair enough.
I do expect that one of the outcomes of this is that we should find a lot of places where we're actually making use of alpha level features in very common or perhaps default profiles. And we'll need, you'll be hearing from us on those. Those will get escalated, and we'll need to figure out whether that means we promote them quicker or we change what we're doing in terms of our default installs.
So, go ahead. Mitch, you said there was going to be some gap on the API coverage side. Can you clarify that?
Yeah, our estimates on the tooling for adding this information to our API protos is just that it will take longer than one release. We'll have the design ready this release, but probably the implementation is looking at 1.10.
Is that just because we need more more people working on it, or does it need more lead time?
More people would definitely help. Across the board, we are committing to less this release because we realistically have 2 full-time contributors and 2 part-time contributors in the UX working group.
Okay. So, I mean, just a general note of guidance for everybody else in the community. The TOC stated, what it would like to see out of the 1.9 release, being a stability release and one focused on helping users with their upgrade problems. This work, right, is central to that. And so in some respects, right, we would, if people,
Louis, we lost that last bit.
Oh, great. If people can volunteer to work on some of the things here that Mitch is talking about, specifically around helping users with their upgrade problems or understanding them, right? We would prefer in many respects that you volunteer to work on this item than possibly other things.
Yeah.
Thanks, Louis.
And to Louis' point, I would say some of these might be a little easier to get your foot into the door in the Istio project compared to changing a hairy if loop on pilot code. So even for new contributors, it might be good to work on them. Hey, Mitch, quick question for you. I'm going to ask the same question I asked in the previous item. What's the retroactive policy on this? Because it's amazing if you can do this for a customer who is running their current, like I'm on 1.6. Just tell me what feature I already know is broken or it's probably experimental.
Yeah, that's a good question. We could very easily run the 1.9 CLI against those older versions. And for whatever environment variables that the 1.9 CLI is aware of, which should be all, or if not nearly all, of, say, the 1.6 surface, it should theoretically work. I would want to do a lot more testing before I commit to saying that it would work. And I would also be skeptical about backporting these changes to, say, the 1.6 CLI.
I have two very related questions here. One is we have this problem that Istio Cattle is bound to a particular version. You cannot use Istio Cattle 1.9 with Istio 1.6. So a lot of the things need to be backported to 1.6, and then user have 5 different versions of Istio Cattle. Any chance we can avoid this and fix this problem? I mean, especially if so many people want in place upgrade Istio Cattle that they use on the client side or on CI/CD will suddenly break and will not work very well with this.
We have some commands within Istio Cattle that are very easy to decouple from the version of the control plane, such as analyzers, and realistically we should be able to run them pretty much anywhere. We have other commands, however, that are much more tightly coupled, such as the troubleshooting commands that we've been trying to improve and not making a lot of forward progress on. It would be pretty challenging with the state of affairs right now to have multiple control plane versions supported for troubleshooting commands in Istio Control.
So user will still have to have one Istio Cattle per version, and whatever we backport to Istio Cattle 1.6 will be in 1.6, and otherwise, that's unfortunate.
Yeah, that's right.
I mean, Carsten, obviously, if we can improve the tooling specifically focused around upgrades to make customers much more comfortable with upgrading, right? That other burden, right? The debug tooling becomes a little less pressing. So I think it's right for them to focus on analyzing, like even like acknowledging that we have that problem. I think it's okay.
Well, Carsten, you've supported me a lot in building the debug kind of API or troubleshooting API designs. I think that would go a long ways towards decoupling Istio Control from the version of the control plane. We just need someone to execute on it, and right now we don't have that.
Yeah, I mean, execution for new features is one thing, but I'm trying to figure out if there is any practical way to use Istio Cattle from 1.9 or from master against, even with limited support. I mean, to recommend users to use Istio Cattle 1.9, to do analyzer and document, hey, this feature doesn't work. If you do PS or whatever, it will not work. But at least get into the practice of using one Istio Cattle across multiple versions, especially if people want to, for people who want to use in-place upgrade where things are particularly nasty around this.
Yeah, I I think it will be nice to have. I don't think in 1.9 it is realistic to assume we will achieve that. For 1.9, if we are adding feature number 3, that feature status definition, I would even take if you run 1.9 Istio Cuddle against 1.6 and it just prints out saying, I understand these things, but not everything. Like, as long as we can do that, it is pretty good.
That's what I'm saying as well. That's my request as well, to use Istio Cuddle 1.9 and against 1.6 and not try to backward features to 1.6.
I suspect that should work in most, if not all, cases.
Okay. This might be an area we want UX working group to invest more in the future around, like using latest Istio Cuddle against older clusters, and what is supported, what is not, how do we let users know, all that kind of stuff. I think, yeah,
yep.
clearly,
that's been kind of architecturally part of our North Star for some time. We're just not making a lot of forward progress towards it.
Sounds good. I had one other comment actually too, which is we've been talking about this alpha, like let users know when they're using alpha, turn off alpha for an Istio install, that kind of stuff. Does UX working group own execution towards that goal, or like how are we tracking that?
Yes, we own execution towards that.
Okay.
I would consider it currently shared ownership with the environments working group, but it's on our roadmap, and most of the discussions I'm having with Nate Mittler and others are going to be moved into the UX working group. So
it might be nice in maybe 1.10 timeframe to kind of have a report on, like, is Istio actually usable only with beta? I'm not sure it is today, and what is missing to actually make it fully usable, and what things should we as a community prioritize moving to beta? Because I think right now we've been giving guidance like, please move things to beta, but it'd be good to actually also have a prioritized list coming from you.
I would love to see that happen.
So
we will try to read that out before 1.10 planning happens.
Okay.
Sven, to answer your question, yes, it is possible to use Istio with only the beta APIs and nothing else.
So this is really cool. Are we talking about maybe having a beta profile for user if they only feel comfortable using beta?
So actually, that's not true right now, because telemetry is enabled using an Envoy filter, and Envoy filter is not a beta API.
So
it will be true in 1.9.
But that's still internal, not
internal,
the
exactly.
API customer going to use, which is what we are going after, I assume.
Exactly, and there are ways to configure it so that it's not even visible to the user. But I didn't say that they will use all the alpha feature or will get any features that are not supported in beta, nor that internally we don't.
We don't need to get the answer to this question now.
Yeah, we don't need to do it now. I think the point is we want to get to a state where a user can say, this cluster does not allow alpha features, and like
exactly.
They're Istio.
Exactly.
We're not
and then we may have a hope to do in-place upgrade more safely.
Yeah.
One step at a time, but I like it. Let's get to the 1.9 barrier, and then we can talk about that goal as 1.10 maybe. Continue, Rich.
Okay. We're also going to be reorganizing the CLI in a non-breaking fashion so that it's clear what commands are appropriate for which personas. In particular, we're seeing now that not everyone has the same access privileges to the Kubernetes cluster or control plane. And that's a good thing. It means our users are differentiating, they're becoming more nuanced, but we need to make our CLI reflect that, so it's clear which commands are appropriate for which personas.
And please break it in UX for the Istio admin, UX for the mesh admin, because we have this discussion everywhere, and well, Lynn probably can. With the proper
we've already got the personas identified, and Costin, I think you are on that document. So
I know, but here I see only two.
Should be reflected.
Here it's missing as well one.
Yes, yeah. This list is not intended to be exhaustive or specific. I guess, yeah. I probably ought to reference my own doc in terms of which personas are which.
As long as your actual doc covers that, we're cool.
Yes.
So are we going to have an actual end user facing document talking about these personas and how we think about them? Right.
We should have guidance talking about the roles, because we're to be clear, these are not personas that we're linking to. Personas have a human name.
Mhm.
Instead, we'll be talking about roles such as Costin mentioned, mesh admin, cluster admin, that sort of thing. And yeah, we should have some guidance around what permissions are required by each of those roles. This is not intended to be prescriptive guidance. You should break your users up this way, but simply in order to run this group of commands in Istio control, you would expect this sort of privilege or access to the cluster.
Yeah, normally when I have done this before, it's a longer initiative to get that consistent terminology throughout your documentation and messaging. So it will. I would advise you to talk with someone from the docs working group to ensure, like, if you have defined your roles, let's use those roles correctly, and when it comes to blogs or some other guides and tasks, right?
Yeah.
And also, there's an effort going on to like rethink how the Istio website is laid out actually around those roles, and to try to split it up. So yeah, I think there's already some efforts there, Niraj. Going on. Craig has more data on that than I do.
I'll talk to Craig. I'll make sure the right hand knows what the left hand is doing and all that good stuff.
But yeah, I think that's a really important point.
At least developers, Istio developers should be well aware of this priority to, kind of separate the roles and this effort, because I don't think we internally internalize this.
Yeah, and it's so important as we put in requirements, which role are really for.
Yep.
Yes. So there are two remaining elements on the roadmap. I don't think they'll be very controversial. We really enjoyed doing UX research this last quarter, which was something that we hadn't done before. So we'd like to continue doing that. We felt like upgrades are a bit of a dead horse, so we're not going to keep kicking that this quarter. We'd like to continue research around how users understand their config and config troubleshooting and rationalization. And I've even heard a rumor that we're going to be joined by a real-life UX researcher to assist us in this work from Red Hat, which would be amazing. Because I'm just making it up as I go, which, yeah, your results may vary. The last thing is we are going to be working on promoting the CRD status feature to beta in the 1.9 timeframe, following Brian Avery's promotion process, as well as the supportability review. And that's the roadmap.
So Mitch, I have one question. I was trying to ask Ed, but he's offline. I want to get your thoughts on, how multi-cluster has been promoted to beta with remote cluster without Istio-D in 1.8, and external Istio-D is promoted to alpha, and we are in the process trying to evaluate, have that promoted to beta also. So I want to get your thoughts on Istio working with remote cluster without Istio-D. Is there any work from a UX perspective? Because in our past, I think you talked about the troubleshooting API.
Yes. Yeah, you're right, Lynn. The troubleshooting API is something that is important to a lot of our users and a lot of our different configuration profiles. We don't feel like we have the bandwidth to address that, as well as the upgrade issues that are pressing the project in 1.9. Yeah.
So would you?
Prioritization means saying no to some great ideas, and that was one of them.
Okay, so would you say the Istio working with remote cluster, that portion would be continue maybe around alpha, given the existing prototype of the troubleshooting API that's been used?
So the existing troubleshooting, the existing prototype of the troubleshooting API does not include functionality that users would expect. Proxy status only lists what proxies are connected to what instance of Istio-D, which has minimal usefulness to users. Doesn't include information like which nonce version each proxy is at for each collection, that sort of thing. I would not recommend promoting those to users. I would simply say that's a gap in our user story that we need to fill. It's important, but hopefully it's a lower priority than our upgrade story.
Okay, thanks for that clarification. I appreciate it.
Yeah, I'm sorry. It's not the news I wanted to give. I want to be able to tell you that we'll be able to do all of the awesome features this release, but I don't think it's going to happen.
Yeah, understood.
All right, is that it? Mitch, you good?
That's everything I've got. Thanks, guys.
So we have 2 minutes left.
Hey Shweta, are we going to be doing the security review or the roadmap next time? Is that the plan?
Oh, which roadmap? TNR?
So the security working group, because we had made a bunch of suggestions last time, and the plan was to bring it back.
Oh, I didn't know that you plan to like do another round of review. I thought we did the review last time. Do you want to go over it again?
You can just point me if they are updated. I can look.
Oh, okay, sure. I can point to you.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know what others want.
Even I wasn't sure if that was requested. So maybe you can have offline. Oliver, please share with all the TOC members. And if update is required or representation is required, we should do that.
Yeah, okay.
Okay.
I think the discussion last time was Oliver and co presented in the same TOC meeting where we provided the guidance around focusing on upgrades and supportability. And so there was a bunch of feedback about being aligned with that, I think. So if that we can take it offline, that part's fine, but that was the reason why I think Neeraj told we would be bringing it up.
I would ask Oliver to just give an update next time on the changes. Like we don't need to do a whole re-review, but update us with what changes you made to the roadmap based on the feedback.
Sure.
Thank you.
Yeah, okay.
Since we're out of time, let's push test and release to next week. And Doug, if it's okay, we can push the extension provider discussion. It's going to take up a lot of time. Brian, on this Istio release notation, is this something you wanted to go over, or is this something we can read offline?
You can read it offline. There was a request from the TOC to come up with an estimate of the amount of time and the process for release managers, what's involved in being a release manager, and this is just the answer to that.
Okay.
Yeah, this is a great doc. Thank you. It actually helps us to understand how much effort before we volunteer. I guess it would be super helpful, Brian, if you can quantify, like 1 month, is that full time, or 3 months, is that 50% of a person's time? That would be helpful.
So in the doc, under next to each of the steps, each of the parts of the process, I put in a time estimate as far as code reviews and everything else. But I did that more as far as the release managers group is concerned than an individual person. So I might be able to improve that some.
Yeah, it would be nice to have a TLDR. A quick scheduling question. So we still have a fairly decent backlog for TOC, and we are pushing into December. So other TOC members and the community in general, right? We have one TOC meeting next week and one more the week after. I suspect next week's will be pretty well attended. The week after, we might start to see drop off. Because that would be
after, I think technically for Googlers is a day off.
Yeah, the 16th is a day off.
16th, it's 18th, that Friday. Oh, okay. Cool.
18th is a day off, but I at least will attend. I plan on attending TSC, but
we could schedule an alternate or like an extra TOC meetings to help get through the backlog, if that would be helpful.
So if 18 is a holiday, can we move that to maybe a day or two earlier? Because I'm actually off that day too. So I don't have to join when I'm off.
Or would it be useful to have 2 TOC meetings next week?
If we do, can we have one early on Tuesday probably? I'm just typing my message where I'll be off for quite a bit now.
Yeah, I know. This is why I'm bringing it up.
It's the Istio holiday special.
Right. Exactly.
So how about we decide on next Friday, Louis? It depends on how many other topics left. Then we could have maybe early.
Really, if we do that, Lynn.
Oh, you guys looking at 2 meetings next week and with 1 meeting early in the week of 14th.
Yeah.
Okay, got it.
Yeah, Louis is trying to get 3 more in before the end of the year.
Well,
Oh,
really, I'm
3
trying to realistically get 2 a bit in. If that would be helpful. Or the other thing that we could do is if you have something on the agenda, like we could schedule an off-cycle meeting, just invite the same people.
Yeah.
It's probably easier to just have additional TOC meetings and just deal with the backlog that way.
I'm okay with that, although I don't love it.
But I mean, so for me, if TOC is a blocker for anything, focus and drive it from the fact that you don't have to wait for a TOC meeting, and then when enough of them emerge, we can either do one-offs or meet with that person and just get the approval. I would like to push back on most of the other working group leads and members who are trying to get consensus or approvals, and we are the blockers, right? I just don't know how many of them are there right now.
Yeah, that's the way to do it, is just don't rely on the TOC meeting as the vehicle to get your stuff done before the end of the year.
Exactly.
Just ping everybody on Slack and keep beating us over the head.
Yeah, I like that. Let's see where we're at next week. Let's just keep to normal schedule for next Friday, and then maybe we can move the one the following week if we need to, depending on how much stuff we have, or have one-offs.
Well, okay, that's fine by me. But yeah, working group leads, start beating us over the head now, though. Don't wait till next Friday.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, and feel free to schedule something earlier if needed, if you just need TOC feedback on something. Yeah, sounds good. All right.
Okay, thanks everyone.
All it for today.
Yes,
Everybody.
bye.
Thank you, you too.
Folks.